Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What's up, Forgers? This is Season 3, Episode number 106 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our amazing supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. This is your show host, as always, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who is more awesome than the smell of fresh-baked cookies. It's Kristen Ashton.
That takes me back to walking through the mall. I don't know, listeners out there, if you've ever walked through the mall and there's that cookie bakery store that's always pumping out the fresh smell of chocolate chip cookies.
Mrs. Fields.
Yes, thank you. And they have those big sheet cookies that they do little drawings on. And depending on the mall, sometimes there's an artist that works there, sometimes not. But either way, a lot of heart and feeling was put into the drawing. Usually they were little footballs in Tampa and Jacksonville, at least.
And it's not the Mrs. Fields that usually gets me at the mall. It's the Wetzel's Pretzels.
Ooh, fresh pretzels are hard to beat. But given the choice, you smell fresh cookies and you smell fresh pretzels. Which one do you go for?
Oh, pretzels for sure. I'm not a sweet food guy. I'm a savory food guy. So I go for the pretzels. What about you?
I'm with you on that one. And that is all because of a great memory I have drinking around the world at Epcot, where I had a German beer with a fresh baked soft pretzel. I can't go back to anything else after I smell fresh pretzels from that moment.
So many wonderful things happen when drinking around the world at Epcot and Disney World in Orlando. I'm telling you, I have many stories. We could probably fill an entire podcast with just those stories, and I'm sure listeners out there have stories as well. Let's get on to the hero stuff that's happening. This show, the recording time has moved. If you haven't noticed, we're recording it on Sundays at 12 noon Pacific, so if you want to jump into the chat, that's the time that we record the show live. Of course, you can always find it on all of your favorite podcasting apps, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, any of those fun things. You can check it out there. But if you want to enjoy the live recording, it now moved to noon on Sundays. Kristen, some huge news dropped for the Nexus this week.
Yes, indeed. It was a teaser through a green crystal, but I think to few people's surprise, it was revealed to be Maiev. I think most people were on that boat before the big reveal happened.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that it was Maiev after seeing the teaser. I am surprised that it is Maiev, though, that the next hero. I mean, obviously, we've been talking over the last few weeks. We're thinking Draenei are definitely incoming, but this was another non-Draenei.
Totally. Now, and I know she's a night elf, and we've got night elves already, but she's like Valera. She's kind of taken a back seat. She is a warden before she's a night elf. Are you on board with her being in there with her story and background or everything? Or do you think she's kind of, it's Maiev?
No, I'm definitely on board. But I know there are people that are kind of in that meh kind of area, but I am totally on board. As you know, I love that whole Illidan, Demon Hunter, Vault of the Wardens feel and all that stuff. I mean, I'm totally into that, Legion story moving into the latest expansion of World of Warcraft, and Maiev is cool, and the warden aspect of it is just really cool to me. I know I've heard some rumblings around. People are not super impressed with the model, how it looks in the game, those sorts of things. It does kind of have a plainer look, but I dig it. I dig the armor. I dig the weapons that she uses. It's sweet.
Right, she looks like how she's supposed to look. That's exactly how I imagined she would be brought to the Nexus. And to Blizzard's credit, there was the joke that she looks like she's wearing a shower curtain, right? Her head's sticking above a shower curtain in a bathtub. But she doesn't look like that in this model. She is a female figure with big shoulders and a cool cape behind it.
Totally. And the thing that stands out the most, they just released, I believe it was yesterday, the Hero Spotlight, where they show all of the kit and everything that she's going to do. And the trait, Vault of the Wardens, not only is that an amazing name for the trait, right? If you've been playing Legion, you know that is one of the dungeons in Legion that you can do, Mythic Plus, all that fun stuff. But this trait, I think, with the right player, is going to be insane. The amount of things that you're going to be able to dodge.
Right, she is the official bait and switch character with this ability. Hands down. I mean, how many abilities can you get enemy heroes to waste on you?
Yeah, really. I mean, that's the thing that I'm thinking. And for those of you out there that haven't seen it, go watch it because she's got some crazy cool abilities. And there's one ability where she can switch places with the shadow version of herself. It looks like it's going to be so much practice required in order to make this worthwhile and useful. But once you get to that point with this trait, Vault of the Wardens, she basically just jumps in the air. And for that vault time, she is unable to be affected by any sort of ability. So, maybe Varian charges in and you can vault up and not get stunned, or, maybe ETC power slides in. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you can avoid. And you're right, Kristen, you could bait out some serious abilities and just not be affected by them at all.
Right, and not only that, but the behind the Hero Spotlight video revealed her level 20 talents, which is kind of fascinating and exciting because it shows a break from tradition. This is a very big break from how it goes. Level 20, you have your augments to your heroics, but her level 20s do not augment her heroics. They give her different abilities, which is fascinating because I think it really sets the stage for some incredible builds and heroes in the future of this game.
Oh, totally. I thought the same exact thing. I think that is such a cool new thing. There's always new things that really come out in this game. We saw the questing and all of that, and it's exciting, like you said, to think about where is this going to go in the future. It's limitless. I mean, there's going to be some cool stuff. No release date, obviously, yet on Maev when she's ready. I'm thinking that it'll be probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll see her on the PTR, and then we'll be able to play her in the game. We talked about Wardens on this show before when we talked about Cordana. So there's some thoughts on there. If you check out our website, HeroesForge.club, and go to the World of Warcraft section on the podcast tab, you can check out what our thoughts were on Cordana and the Wardens in general. But I'm stoked to have a Warden in the Nexus. Another assassin. I know out there, lots of assassins. We gotta have a lot of assassins. This one looks really cool. And in unique situations where you're playing against teams that like to group together a lot, she's going to be really powerful. And of course, that trait, Vault of the Wardens. I can't wait to see that get in the hands of some serious esports teams.
It's going to be beautiful. And the control she's going to have over mobility characters is very, very exciting because it means now there's an introduction to counter a Hanzo or a Genji to a certain extent. And that is amazing.
Totally. And they keep coming out with new ideas, new stuff, every hero. It's just awesome. This game is awesome. I mean, we wouldn't be doing a podcast about it if it wasn't awesome. So bravo, Heroes team. Can't wait to see more about Maev. Let's get into it and what we're here to talk about today, and let's forge.
Let's forge.
Kristen, ever since we started this show, I can't even tell you how much I have learned about the Blizzard universes out there that I didn't know. I mean, there have been so many things that I'm doing research for these characters we talk about every week and trying to help imagine what they would be like if they came into the Nexus. There are hundreds of thousands of characters out there to talk about, and I learned so much, and this week is no different. I had no idea who this was when you said, let's do this character this week. So, I mean, it was a huge learning experience.
You and me both. Looking at this character, I had to make a miniature timeline because it's a StarCraft character. And as our listeners know, we're not the biggest Star Trek, no, StarCraft fan people here. So a lot of the lore kind of escapes us. So that's why it's always fun to do a StarCraft character because like you said, we get to learn a bit more of the puzzle, but it gets confusing. That StarCraft wiki reads like a textbook. So I sat down and I made a timeline, and only after I did that did it start to make sense as to where he was in the storyline, because Alan Shezar from StarCraft, he just kind of shows up in two side missions, well, two side stories, I should say, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's cool. I mean, he's got a cool story. This is another example of how these characters that are just minor characters in the storyline, or maybe major in certain points of the story, like Alan, but you know, have these backstories, and all of this stuff is just so thick on both sides of it. It's just awesome. So give us a little bit of a background on Alan Shezar and his place in StarCraft.
Will do. Though named after an anime character from Escaflowne, Alan Shezar of StarCraft fame is far from a sword-wielding womanizer. In fact, the only thing the two share is their piloting of mechs. Shezar first makes his appearance in the Enslavers 1 and 2 campaigns that take place after the Great War of the main StarCraft game, right at the beginning of Brood War. In it, he leads his Shazar's Scavengers as they make camp on infested Aiur, steal Protoss technology, and control the mind of a Cerebrit. Before this gets out of hand, though, players team up with Tom Kazansky, the best Wraith pilot on Mengsk's fleet, Magellan, a cybernetic construct who commands a science vessel, and, of course, Mojo, the Protoss. Together, the group hunts down Shezar, eventually killing him and preventing further havoc.
Definitely. And it's worth saying that in the game, Shezar is piloting a vehicle.
Yes, he is a Goliath pilot. Big time.
And for those of you, I mean, there are a lot of, units in StarCraft and a lot of different, looks for all of these names. It's hard to keep it straight. So if you don't know, I mean, the best way I can describe what the Goliath looks like is basically like a diva mech.
That's perfect. That's exactly what it is. And I mean, we also have those little Goliath camps on Braxis. So even if you've never played StarCraft, if you play Heroes, chances are you've heard the Goliath online sound, and then the little 2-foot mini diva mechs tromping their way to an enemy's tower.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the models are awesome in the game StarCraft. The new StarCraft models, all of it is really cool. And Alan Shezar pilots one of those Goliaths in the game. So trying to bring that into Heroes of the Storm is a challenge. And the story is great. My favorite part is obviously Mojo.
This I had to stop at and go, really? A Protoss named Mojo. Why? Where is the backstory to explain how he got named Mojo? Mojo is not a Protoss name. Judging by the sounds we have that create Protoss names, Mojo doesn't fit the mold.
I mean, Artanis. You've got Tassadar. You've got Mojo.
Of the classic Protoss, I think I'm more surprised Mojo hasn't made it to the Nexus yet. Right?
Absolutely. Mojo incoming on this show for sure. The next StarCraft hero that we forge on this show will be Mojo. No matter how much backstory we have and what we can build, Mojo is incoming. But today we're talking about Alan Shezar and his place in the Nexus and how we would try to bring that character to life. I'm going to go first this week, and the first thing we always talk about is role classification. So I think that if Alan Shezar was brought into the Nexus, since we already have a diva mech tank, and he doesn't really fit that whole aspect of specialist or support in my mind, maybe specialist, I'm going with assassin.
I think that's fair. And from everything I've heard, if your opponent managed to put together a group of Goliaths and could walk them to the point they needed to get to correctly, apparently their AI pathing was horrendously bad, then it was pretty scary. And, it is scary when you have those giant things you finally get to build that do damage out the wazoo.
Totally. I watched a few videos on YouTube of somebody that, created 200 Goliaths and tried to take over somebody's base with 200 units, which is crazy. I mean, there's a ton of really cool StarCraft content on YouTube. I mean, the game has been around forever, so people have done some crazy stuff. Obviously, all of the mods, all of how this got created in the first place, how Heroes of the Storm got created in the first place. So it's worth checking out some of those videos because they're really cool. So starting with the trait here, I'm calling it EMP Generator. And this is based off of his story where his crew basically created this huge EMP generator on the planet, and it would, you know, take away the shields of units that were in the area. So basically we're going to try to bring that to heroes. The base fantasy for this Shezar kit is to make him a assassin that is also, that has a huge utility and plays a different way than we would normally expect an assassin or any hero in the Nexus to play. So with this trait, he places an EMP generator on the battlefield that will slowly drain all of the shields from the enemy team the longer that they stay in range of it. The shields that are drained by this EMP are distributed to the friendly team as spell shields. Like most things in the Nexus, this EMP can be destroyed by the enemy team if they target it. So basically giving you shields and taking the enemy shields away.
I like that idea. It really, really plays into the kit. Now, when you talk about this whole Goliath thing, is your ultimate fantasy to make Shazar the Goliath in the Nexus? Or is it more about Shazar himself rather than the Goliath?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both, but I'm going straight up for a lot of Goliath stuff in here. So, you know, if they were to put a Goliath in it, kind of like they put the tank, they put Sergeant Hammer, and it's really, you know, not really about Sergeant Hammer. It's about the tank. It's about being in there and fighting it out. But I think that if there was a Goliath in the game, Shezar would be a good person to be piloting it. So I'm thinking more Goliath-y.
Awesome. Now with this EMP, is it a pulse, or you just said it's slowly drained? So it's a permanent field that if you walk into, it slowly drains a shield. If you walk out, do you immediately get your shields back, or does it take just as long to regen them?
I think maybe it acts as though you had lost it due to damage, right? So if you're taking the damage, depending on the hero you're playing, you know, Artanis, all these shields, you know, stuff like that, it would come back at the same rate as if you had lost it, whatever that is for you.
Nice, nice. And the losing it, would it take that same amount of time to lose it? Or do you think maybe you could spec it to lose it faster? They lose it as soon as they step inside? What is your dream talent build with this?
So I think that it would slowly drain their shield, like as they're in the area, so you can feel that it's happening. Maybe there's even a visual, like some sort of lightning is coming from this EMP generator that's causing you to, you know, lose your shield, and so you have to target it in order to keep your shield. We've been seeing, ever since they did that shield change a while ago, we've been seeing a lot of different, you know, ways to use physical shield, spell shield, all this kind of stuff. So I think there might be a place for something like this in the game. It's not super powerful to some teams. You could definitely draft around something like this because you're obviously not going to take characters that benefit from shields in the same way or even distribute shields in the same way if you're playing against it. But yeah, maybe there would be a cool draft strategy with this.
Totally. And the generator, is it destructible?
Yeah, so the enemy team can destroy it, kind of like a Varian banner is what I'm thinking there. So there's a Varian banner, I think, that gives shields to the enemy team. This would kind of be the exact opposite of that on a trait. So the next thing we talk about is mounting and how this hero would mount on the battlefield. You know, we see some crazy stuff with, you know, Asmodan running faster, sometimes riding him out, Cho'Gall carrying him out. So how does this character do it? Well, you're in this Goliath, right? So, and I want to preface this by saying, I know that this doesn't happen in the game. I know this is not like an actual thing in StarCraft, but come on, this is the Nexus. So what I'm really imagining here is that it has rocket boosters, not like Diva rocket boosters where you just go faster in a way. You're going to gain mount speed and you're going to have to channel it just like every other hero does in the game. But while you're channeling it, there's these rockets I'm imagining on the Goliath that would just, you know, slowly move down to the facing the ground position. Like they like move down and then the rockets would ignite, and this is the channeling time in order for you to get on your mount. Same amount of time as normal, and then they would take off and the mech would just lift up off the ground, and then you would be moving at mounted speed but flying through the air.
Fantastic. What does it do with its legs?
The legs kind of just dangle there, I think, or maybe they have the rockets at the bottom. Maybe the feet like turn into the rockets. I'm just obsessed with the animation idea of this. Like, how cool would that be? And you know, we've seen it. We just saw it. Mechs are a huge thing for people that love this game. Obviously, they have a whole mech event, right? So this would be just killer. You see these mechs with these rockets that just come out. I just think that would be cool.
Totally right. And then with the skin changes, you change the color of the flames that shoot out. That's awesome. And you'll find out why I agree with this later.
Stay tuned, listeners. You may hear more. So, the way that I built this kit is a little different.